the lots of all men do stand in the hands of the Lord. For he is the end and the beginning of all things. He can remove crowns and scepters, and displace the most cautious arrangements and counsels of man, who when he thinks himself most secure, tumbles headlong from the seat of power, and lies groveling in the dust. Therefore, astrologers, in most of their speculations, seek without a light, for they conceive everything may be known or read in the stars. If an odd silver spoon is but lost, the innocent stars are obliged to give an account of it. If an old maiden loses a favorite puppy, away she goes to an oracle of divination for information of the wealth. O vile credulity, to think that those celestial bodies take cognizance of and give in their configurations and aspects continual information of the lowest and vilest transaction of dotards? The most trivial and frivolous questions that are pretended to be resolved by an imperfection in the figure of the heavens. Well does our legislature justly condemn as juggling impostors all those idle vagabonds who infest various parts of this metropolis, and impose upon the simple and unsuspecting by answering for a shilling or half-crown fee whatever thing or circumstance may be proposed to them, as if they were God's vicegerents on earth and his deputed privy councillors. They do not even scruple ever to persuade poor mortals of the lower class that they show images in glasses, as if they actually confederated with evil spirits. A notable instance I will here recite that happened very lately in this city. Two penurious Frenchmen, taking advantage of the credulity of the common people, who are continually gaping after such toys, had so contrived a telescope or optic glass as that various letters and figures should be reflected in an obscure manner, showing the images of men and women in company, so that when anyone came to consult these jugglers, after paying the usual fee, they, according to the agency of the query, produced answers by those figures or letters, to which affrights and inspectors into the glass so much that he or she supposes they have got some devilish thing or other in hand, by which they remain under the full conviction of having actually beheld the parties they wish to see, though perhaps they may at the same time be residing many hundreds of miles distant therefrom. They, having received this impression from a preconceived idea of seeing the image of their friend in this optical machine, go away in a non-report with an addition of 1,000 lies that they have been witness of a miracle. I say, this kind of deception is only to be acted with the vulgar, who rather than have their imaginations balked, will swallow the most abominable lies and conceits. For instance, who would suppose that any rational being could be persuaded that a fellow creature of proper size and stature should be able by any means to thrust his body into a court battle? That thing which was advertised to the public by a merry knave, not thinking there were such fools in existence, to be done by him in a public theater. Upwards of 600 persons were assembled to behold the transaction, never doubting that the fellow meant to keep his word, when to the great mortification and disgrace of this long-headed audience, the conjurer came forth amidst a general swits and buzz of, "Ay, now, fee! Now, fee! He is just going to jump in." "Indeed," says the conjurer, "ladies and gentlemen, I am not. For if you were such fools as to believe such an absurdity, I am not wise enough to do it." Therefore, making his bow, he disappeared, to the great discomfort of these wise heads, who straightway withdrew in the best manner they could. As for the telescope magicians, they were taken into custody by the gentlemen of the police office in Bow Street, nor would their familiar do them the kindness to attempt their rescue. But to have done with these things that are unworthy our notice as philosophers, and to proceed to matters of a higher nature, it is to be noted that we have before said, in respect of the influences of the stars, that Ptolemy, in his quadripartite, in speaking of generals, comes pretty near our ideas on the subject of planetary influence, of which we did not any time doubt, but do not admit, nay, it is not necessary, seeing there is an astrology in nature, that each action of our life, our afflictions, fortunes, accidents, are deducible to the influential effects of the planets. They proceed from ourselves. But I admit that our thoughts, actions, and cogitations sympathize with the stars upon the principle of general sympathy. Again, there is a much stronger sympathy between persons of like constitution and temperament, for each mortal creature possesses a sun and system within himself. Therefore, according to universal sympathy, we are affected by the general influence or universal spirit of the world as the vital principle throughout the universe. Therefore, we are not to look into the configurations of the stars for the cause or incitement of men's bestial inclinations, for brutes have their specifical inclinations for the propagation of the principle by feed, not by the sign of the horoscope. Therefore, as man is oftentimes capable of the actions and excesses of brutes, they cannot happen to a man naturally, but from any other source than the seminal being infused in his composition. For, seeing likewise that the soul is immortal, and endued with free will, which acts upon the body, the soul cannot be inclined by any configuration of the stars, either to good or to evil, but from its own immortal power of willingly being seduced by sin, it prompts to evil. But enlightened by God, it springs to good. On either principle, according to its tendency, the soul seeds while in this frail body, but what further concerns the soul of man is this, and after this we shall fully investigate the natural magic of the soul, in which we have fully treated every point of inquiry that has been suggested to us by our own imagination and by scientific experiments have proved its divine virtue, originally sealed therein by the author of its being. Sufficient it is to return to our subject relative to astrology, especially to know what part of it is necessary for our use, of which we will select that which is pure and to our purpose, for the understanding and effecting of various experiments in the course of our works, leaving the tedious calculation of nativities, the never-ceasing controversies and cavillations of its professors, the dissensions which arise from the various modes of practice, all which we leave to the figure-crafting plodder, telling him, by the by, that whatever he thinks he can foreshow by inspecting the horoscope of their nativity by long, tedious, and night-wearied studies and contemplations,